Ryan Day's won a lot of ball games at Ohio State. He's contended for titles, and he's well respected in the coaching community. But at the golden egg locations of college football, and Ohio State is definitely one of those, it's not just about how much you win, but who you beat. And you know this when you sign up for a job like that. And to be frank, the real ones want that. The real ones know that they're going to live on the edge time and time again, and they embrace it. And after having lost to Michigan for 3 straight years, and after watching the Wolverines hoist the big trophy last year, Ryan Day seems to be on the most fragile ground that he's been on as a head coach. Now, this season is probably the most important one for the Buckeyes in a decade. And lucky for him, this year the stars are aligning. They get Michigan at home. The Wolverines lost some of their most important pieces, including their head coach. Ohio State has a top 2 roster in the whole sport, and the sense of urgency in Columbus is DEFCON 1. Now, Coach Day asked for all the gold in the NIL vault, and he got it. So now is the time for the tide to turn. One could even say Ryan Day is going to have to pull a Jim Harbaugh, and he knows that. After having fallen victim to your rivals on the field and getting some of your most talented staffers taken off the field, it's time for Ohio State to get the Army together in March. So will Coach Day and the Buckeyes get back to their old ways when it matters the most? Well, he better, because if not, regardless of how much he's won, he may just fall off that edge he's been living on for a while now. Guy that knows a little bit about this Michigan-Ohio State rivalry, David Cohn, former Michigan quarterback, my brother, former Western State, Colorado wide receiver, Blaine Crain. David, it's crazy to think, and I'm not even saying Ryan Day would get fired, but there may just be a mutual parting of the ways if they don't beat Michigan and lose 4 in a row.
Mutual parting of the ways.
And then, you know what I'm saying? And we'll see what happens with Eberflus at the Bears. But when you look at Ryan Day and Ohio State this year, with all that's gone on in the past, all they've accumulated in the future, we got an Urban Meyer quote saying this may be the most talented team he's ever seen. Is it a must-win for Ryan Day against Michigan this year to be the head coach of Ohio State 2 years from now?
I didn't know we were going to be talking about the rivals today, but that's why when you stay prepped, you don't have to get ready.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Stay ready, don't get ready.
Man, Ryan Day has never won fewer than 11 games in a season, top 5 winning percentage in the country, and all we're talking about is, does this guy have to beat Michigan or else he might get fired? That's how much I want it to matter. That's
it does
how much
matter.
I want it to matter. And like you talked about, Jim Harbaugh lost 5 straight of these. Couldn't beat Urban Meyer. What happened to him? Turns it around, beats him 3 years in a row, wins the conference 3 years in a row, college football playoff, goes 43-2, something like that in the last 3 years. So look, this rivalry, and I don't have to tell you guys about it with the Iron Bowl, like when you watch your biggest rival have success, I mean, it does something to you. In terms of talking about having the best roster in the country, of course, man. Like, first of all, point to a year when the Buckeyes don't have one of the best rosters. They got football players, freaks running around at every single position. You add to that the fact that most of the seniors came back to this team like Michigan's did a year ago, and they added elite players from the transfer portal, maybe 2 of the best college football players from the Southeastern Conference, and they have a budget of $16 million in NIL. Of course, they have one of the best rosters. What I do find slightly amusing, though, is that Urban Meyer and Jim Tressel both say the same soundbite on the exact same day as if it were scripted for them.
What?
I don't. Did anyone else get a chuckle out of that? Did anyone else get a chuckle out of that?
Well, let's go ahead and play the Urban Meyer clip.
Please.
We have the Urban Meyer clip just to give you some context. This is today. On3 put it out on social. Let's play what Urban Meyer, former Ohio State head coach, won a lot of games, obviously won a lot at Florida. Let's see what Urban had to say.
But as of now, this is one of the most talented rosters in the last decade, maybe ever. I mean, that's a big statement. They got to play, but you look at the quality of athlete at every position, I've never seen anything like it.
So if you're Ryan Day, look, number one, I appreciate you, dog, but also I really don't want you out there saying this.
But Jim Tressel said the same thing right after him.
I'd say the same thing about Jim Tressel. He's over at Youngstown State with the Penguins just hanging out. There's nothing left that benefits or doesn't benefit him anymore. But if you're Ryan Day, it just builds up the hype even that much more. And it's not even, Blaine, and this is what we talk about in some of the biggest rivalries. Let's look at Auburn, Alabama, for example. Mike Shula at Alabama won a decent amount of games. It wasn't like Mike Shula was going 5-7 every year. He just couldn't beat Auburn. So I don't care how many games you're really winning outside of if you win the national championship. Is that the only caveat? If let's say Ryan Day loses to Michigan and they win the national championship, okay, like we can spin that one. But anything outside of that, when you sign up to be the head coach at Ohio State, you know you got to beat Michigan. You sign up to be the head coach at Alabama, you know you got to beat Auburn. I can go down the list of some of these. Texas and Oklahoma, very similar. You sign up to be the head coach at Oklahoma, you're expected to beat Texas. Maybe not every year, but most of the years or at least be even. So I don't care what Ryan Day has done. You're either winning the Natty and beating Michigan, or you're beating Michigan, and that's the only thing I think deep down that can save you from this thing kind of falling off.
It just feels like Ohio State and Ryan Day have been stuck on third base forever. It's just one of those guys who just can't finish. This is the year to do it because the big bad wolf and walk around on that sidelines of Michigan. Jim Harbaugh's gone. All right, new year, new team. One thing I am worried about with all this NIL money, with all this elite roster talent, why is Caleb Downs getting talked about at running back?
Yeah. And if our viewers don't know, it got put out today. Ryan Day told reporters that Caleb Downs, all right, everything safety, one of the biggest transfer portal additions in the country, let alone just for Ohio State, from Alabama, guy's going to be a first-round pick, has been taking some reps or been in meetings with the running backs. Hold on. Yeah.
Ever since Travis Hunter at Colorado, now we're starting to see kids play both ways. If your roster is this elite, you have two good backs.
You have Quinshon Judkins and Travion.
Why would there's not a lot of green flags coming out of the Ohio State camp right now. With this isn't a good thing to me if Caleb Downs is getting reps at running back.
I don't believe
One, still quarterback questions. We don't know who the starter is. 3, you cussed out some chick who's your recruiting director. Now she's at Michigan. There's not a lot of good things. If you're going to play the bad boy role, that's fine. All right, but you better live up to it, and it better show up on Saturday because now, other than the Georgia game, I mean, Ryan Day hadn't beat Oregon. When they play Oregon this year? This schedule's not a walk in the park for them.
No, it's not a walk in the park. I mean, and you look at the additions and the teams going to the Big Ten. This feels like in poker when you go all in on a hand. This is Ryan Day's all in. I've got pocket kings. I'm feeling good about it because it's really hard to sit here and say there aren't two rosters out there that are better than Georgia and Ohio State. But as far as the Caleb Downs running back thing, you know what it kind of seems like to me? That maybe he told him this during the recruitment process and the transfer portal, and he's not really going to play running back, but they just wanted to he's just trying to massage it a little bit and make sure that Caleb Downs isn't that upset. I need you to play safety. I need you to make up for mistakes and missed tackles in the front seven and keep, runs that would go 80 yards and a touchdown, limiting those to 20 yards, and then get your interceptions and be a leader in this, that, and the other. It seems like there's a lot going on, man.
But isn't it all going to come down to Will Howard, though?
Well,
isn't that what it's going to come down to?
Well, the quarterback in
probably
football, obviously.
To win the national championship, probably. Just because they may have a good enough roster where Will Howard can sort of just be a facilitator, and maybe they win the conference, and they do still have to play at Oregon, they have to play at Penn State. Maybe they find a way to win the conference in a couple playoff games. But when you start talking about playing in the national championship, Georgia's roster looks just as good to me.
Oh no, I'm not arguing
quarterback take over.
I'm not arguing that.
On the Caleb Downs point, like every defensive player wants to know they could still tote the rock.
Yeah.
Every defensive player wants
I want to run the ball,
go out
David.
there for $150 and 2 touchdowns. So you tell them that.
Well, I'm saying
you tell them that. Maybe you let them come in and play slot in practice once in a while and get a reverse and,
Hey,
you
never
open
that door.
Game.
I'm saying you open that door. A lot of people are going to. You give one herder a sheep back, there's going to be a long line of herders in this damn kingdom.
Well, I think we're not being disingenuous, but a little bit naive to not think Will Howard is going to be the guy. You went out and spent that money in NIL to get Will Howard to come in and be the quarterback. And as far as winning a national championship, there is going to be a game, right? Whether it's to set yourself up to get into the national championship game and most likely in the playoff, where Will Howard has to make a couple big time throws to be able to win the game when the windows are very small. Can he do that? We'll see.
We saw him do it against TCU. In a big game.
I'm not worried about him. That TCU defense ain't Georgia. That TCU defense isn't going to be what Oregon's going to give you. There's going to come a point in time where they win the Big Ten. Right now, I do think Ohio State's probably going to win the Big Ten. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say, which means you get a bye in the college football playoff. We do our predictions after fall camp, but I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. We're going to talk with J.D. Pickell about it a little bit here once we get him on in about 25, 30 minutes. And we want to hear from you. But there's going to come a point in time when there's the semifinal game, the championship game, whatever, where on a drive, Will Howard has to make some big-time throws to win them a game against an NFL secondary. That's this season, I think, for Ohio State, it's going to come down to 3 to 5 plays, really, because it always does for everybody. Go back to Michigan. You know, look at the Alabama game to get in there. What had to happen on that last driver? The Ohio State-Michigan game, where, hell, J.J. McCarthy got lucky a couple times, we're going to be honest, threw a couple balls in there with a guy's back turned and was able to fit it in. Can Will Howard do that? That's the biggest question.
He saw that his back was going to be turned, and he made that.
Oh, yeah, excuse me.
If he loses to Michigan by 1 possession, wins the Big Ten, and losing the national championship by 1 possession.
It's not good enough, I don't think.
I wouldn't be shocked if they part ways. Like you said, it would be some sort of part ways. But I still would say no. I would still say no. I mean, just from the reasons that we've all talked about.
4 in a row, David. You lose to Michigan.
Again, Jim Harbaugh lost 5 in a row.
I know.
And now you just called him the big bad wolf. You know, I mean, we're not that far removed from the Buckeyes social media team liking a tweet that said Jim Harbaugh got a contract extension.
Yeah.
They liked it, and now they don't like it so much right now, but he's gone off. One last question, though, for you guys. Is Urban Meyer smart? Urban Meyer smart. He just coming out here talking about how great the roster is.
David,
is this guy playing
it.
5D chess? Maybe he's trying to get his old coaching job back when this doesn't work out.
Listen.
Am I crazy?
No. I think Urban Meyer is about Urban Meyer, 100%. Not that, you know, I don't know him and Ryan Day's personal relationship, but I do know that if you think about all of it, Urban Meyer goes to the NFL. Now he's kind of a laughingstock a little bit with the Jags. He's hanging out at Hooters or whatever, getting videoed with like random blonde chicks, which, you know, again, you're not married, do your thing. Look at Bill Belichick. But all of a sudden, nobody's really talking about Urban Meyer. Oh, they're looking at Kirby Smart. Oh, we love Kirby Smart. Oh, Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning is next up. We love Steve Sarkisian. He's turned his life around. What a redemption story. Bathed in the waters of redemption like a phoenix. He's a rose. But guess who just left? Nick Saban, right? The Dark Emperor. So I wouldn't be shocked if Urban Meyer was maybe shoveling a little bit more coal in that hype fire just to build it up, because if there is a fall, it could be a big fall. And look, I think Urban would jump at that opportunity. I think there's very few places that Urban Meyer would go to.
Yeah,
I think Notre Dame's one of them.
Yep.
I think Ohio State is for sure one of them. And you know what? I think they'd have him back. I think they'd have Urban back. So we want to know what you think. What's up, everybody on YouTube? Hey, do us a favor if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate it. Keep sharing the show. Excited for our new time slot, and we always appreciate you guys joining us.